So some really slow people out here in the world. So this video was just to humble this little goofy hoe real quick. So let me say this. You have a long way to go before you could ever attempt to catch up to Briann January. And we got to start talking about how inflated her records are. As a matter of fact, let's do that first. While you look at Briann January, all-time playoff assist leader at number 8. Okay, and Caitlin got a long way to go because she's only played in a couple playoff games. I mean, she got swept playing it her way, the Lisa Bluter way, right? Her first year in this league, went to the playoffs, got swept while they were running the Lisa Bluter system 100% and got swept. Last year, she didn't make it to the playoffs. Her team did, she didn't. So she has a long way to go. She might not make it this year. Injury, anything can happen. So you just never know, right? But while you're looking at Briann January, let's highlight some context so we can tell the truth about Caitlin Clark's stats, right? And not just her stats, but just the records. Let me break this down for you. There was once upon a time in a WNBA when there were only 8 teams. There used to be a time in the WNBA where you played 2 20-minute halves. There was a time in the WNBA when it was only, 25 games? 25, 28 games in a season. Okay? So when you factor in, there was once upon a time where the women played under 30 games. There was once upon a time where there were only 8 teams, right? There was once upon a time where the game was extremely physical. There was once upon a time when there were 2 20-minute halves instead of 10-minute quarters. Okay, there was once upon a time in the playoffs where it was single game elimination, right? So you have to consider all of these things. Hold on. Yeah. So listen, you have to consider all of these things. So when you see, and then also let's add this to it as well. There was once upon a time in the WNBA where you didn't have charter flights. There was once upon a time in the WNBA where you were making $32,000 or less. There was once upon a time in the WNBA where you had to share hotel rooms and they were not 5-star hotels. There was once upon a time in the WNBA, in 1999, but not 97, 98, where they paid for you an apartment, but it wasn't luxury apartments. There was once upon a time in the WNBA when you couldn't get a rental car unless you paid for it for yourself, right? All of these things are necessary. There was once upon a time in the WNBA when they didn't have analytics. There was once upon a time in the WNBA when they didn't have these training facilities, right? So all of these things matter, you guys. Caitlin Clark stepped into a league where she played 40 games, okay? Where she played 40 games versus some of the records she broke where women only played 32 games or 28 games, okay? Or 34 games or 36 games. So no. Caitlin stepped into a league at a time where everything was perfect for her. She had charter flights. She got 5-star hotel rooms by herself. She got paid substantially more than these other women. She got a free rental. She got this. She got that. She got analytics. She got a scouting team. She got a good weight room, recovery. She had it all. Versus women who came in fresh from college and stepped into a league making $32,000 or less, roommating in a hotel room that wasn't 5-star, didn't have recovery centers, didn't have analytics in these great film rooms, had none of this stuff. And they were flying commercial flights with delays and everything, sleeping in airports, and what that did to the body. And it was an era where the league was extremely physical, okay? So right, they just did what the play was called to do. And that's really what it was. And when they were called to score, they would score, but they were very rigid. And that's how it was. Fundamentally sound, very rigid. So it's a whole different era. That's why I love what Michael Jordan said. When they asked Michael Jordan, they said, who's the GOAT? Who's the greatest of all time? And Michael Jordan said, I'm not going to say that. He said he's not going to say that. because everyone played different in different eras. And there's no guarantee that Michael Jordan would have been successful in the Bill Russell, freaking Wilt Chamberlain era. There's no guarantee he would have been as successful. Why? Because it was extremely physical. The rules were different, right? The 80s have nothing on the 60s or the 70s or the 50s, right? Has nothing in terms of physicality. So if Michael Jordan barely made it through the freaking Jordan rules ever with the Pistons, can you imagine if we thought the Pistons were crazy? Can you imagine what it was like in the 50s and 60s where they let you do any and everything to these people? And on top of the fact, listen, there was no commercial flights for those players back in the 50s, 60s, right? And on top of that, you were dealing with racism, overt racism, clear racism. So who knows? Listen, you had to sleep on a team bus. You had to sleep in cars. You had to find some motel willing to accept black players. It was crazy. You couldn't eat at a lot of different places because of your race. You were being heckled and mistreated and being threatened because of your race, all sorts of things. So Bill Russell and all of those African-American players back in those days, man, they really had a lot of grit and a lot of resolve because they were able to make it through the worst times. They didn't have Gatorade. They didn't have all of this sports science and sports medicine and analytics and film rooms and all of this stuff. They didn't have any of this stuff. Them dudes was riding on buses without ACs on the bus with windows rolled down, with people throwing rocks at their buses, calling them the N-word, sleeping on a bus or sleeping in a car because a motel wouldn't accept them because of their race. They couldn't eat at certain restaurants for lunch or dinner or breakfast or anything like that. They're getting to the games and their own fans calling them the N-word as they're running onto the court. And then when they got on the court, it was extremely physical. So like there's no guarantee Michael Jordan would have made it through that time. We don't know how mentally tough Michael Jordan is. Now we know he's tough on the court. We don't know how tough he would have been in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And I'm just speaking about dealing with racism and the fact that he doesn't have this legendary trainer. I believe his name was Tim Grover or something. You couldn't get your own personal trainers in those days. These dudes were working 2 jobs on top of playing in the NBA. And what are you talking about? So there's no guarantee Michael Jordan would have just been as great in the 50s, 60s, and 70s as he was in the 80s and 90s and in the early 2000s. There's no guarantee, right? So that's why Jordan said he's just going to leave that one alone. For his time, he can argue he was the best ever. The numbers prove it. The rings prove it. Okay, the eye test proves it. But when it start coming to those 70s and those 60s and 50s, that's a whole different era with different rules. Okay, in a different society, a different culture. It was brutal. Okay, technology state, like it was gross at that time. It was virtually nothing, right? It was very primitive. And so like you can't just look at Caitlin Clark's stats now and just say, oh, she's the greatest of all time. Number one, goats get sacrificed to gods anyway. So you can call her a goat. She just gets sacrificed to the gods. That's how I look at it. But regardless of the fact, she's not a GOAT. She's only been to the playoffs one time as a participant, and she got swept, period. And she was playing it the Lisa Bluter way. So all of these people saying, oh, Caitlin Clark, she just needs a team built around her, and so she could play her brand of basketball. She had that. She had that in 2024, and she was trash. She had that in a tournament, and she got killed by South Carolina. She had that in a tournament in 2023 and she got murdered by LSU. In 2024, running it her way, they got swept in the first round by Stephanie White. They got swept by Stephanie White in the first round. So she's only been to the playoffs one time and her records is because she's playing 44 games. She's playing way more games than they were playing in 97, 98 in these years like that. So, of course, it's easier for you to break these records when you're comfortable. You're playing more games. It's a different era, a different brand, a different style of basketball. It's less physical. Okay, point guards aren't in some rigid system that's holding them back pretty much from scoring. They get to score and do whatever they want to do now. Your whole life is more comfortable than what it was back then for those women, right? So you have to factor in everything. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, these people running around with these numbers, and I'm like, don't you know that she plays 40, 44 games? Don't you know she flies chartered flights instead of commercial? Like, don't you know that she has their own training room, recovery facilities, and film rooms, and luxury apartments and five-star hotels where she doesn't have to share anything, and she's getting paid substantially more than what those women were getting paid, and they got all different forms of technology and analytics and sports science and medicine, and they had none of that in 97, 98, 99, like none of that stuff, none of it. So anything those women were doing, it was amazing. It was amazing what those women achieved, especially knowing that they were sleeping over in a freaking airport because the flight was delayed 2-3 times. And yet they still had to make a game. Like, it's levels to this, y'all. So you have to factor in all. That's why I'm looking at this stuff. I'm like, these people are dumb. These people freaking dropped out of 3rd grade. Like, these people are stupid. Just dumb, retarded people. Dumb older people. These dudes, these females and these dudes in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and just stupid, dumb retards, right? Just dumb. No critical thinking, no logic, just nothing. Just dumb, retarded people. I call it cold.